Alexa, play the Business and Beyond podcast.
Playing the Business and Beyond podcast on Next Gen Media.
Coming to you from the Apogee Graphics Studios, this is the Business and Beyond podcast on Next Gen Media. Ashton, Tony, Tyler here in studio. What's going on, guys?
Man, not too much. What's going on?
That was a great intro.
It's always good.
And yeah, I changed 2 words up. Throws everybody off.
Sounded good, man.
Me off.
Yeah. Man,
so,
go ahead,
Tony. Have you recovered from our endeavor the other day?
Oh man, this guy.
So we had to move a storage shed from one end of my yard to the other because I'm getting a new building put in city. There's only one spot we can put it. So we thought it's just a 7x7, like hard plastic. It's, just a shed. So I just clean it all out and we could move it. Don't have to take it apart. We could just kind of do that thing. We grossly underestimated how heavy that thing is.
Yeah, we started by just taking one panel off. Now we can move this. All right, well, let's take another panel off and then we can move that. No. Okay, what if we undo the floor and then we can move? We ended up just taking the whole fucking thing apart.
It's 12.
I mean, we could barely.
It's the roof. 3 walls, 2 doors, where each wall is 2 pieces, and then the floor. So at one point, we're like, it's not even worth it. Just take it apart.
Yeah.
It actually worked a lot better.
Well, and then by the time we got down to just the roof to move the full roof, we could barely move that. I'm like, fuck, how did we ever think we were going to move this whole shed? This roof's heavy as shit. Like, that might have been the weight of the whole thing was the roof.
Yeah, we could have just taken the roof off.
We spent like an hour dicking with it, trying to move the whole thing whole, not have to rebuild it, and then just tore it apart anyways and rebuilt it.
Yeah, I got it all ready. I said, Tony, come over. Maybe 20 minutes, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I'll just move it over. But no, I do appreciate that stuff.
Speaking of that, I didn't see you walk in with a case of beer, so.
I thought I owed you like 3 cases of beer. Well, they don't drink beer during
Put
the
it
show
on his
anyways.
tab.
This is whiskey. Yeah, put it on my tab.
Yeah.
Next time you come over, I'll have it for you.
Okay.
When you come to help out with other building.
I actually, man, this weekend spent a little time like going through like MSNBC, man, and came across the show. You guys remember the show Undercover Boss? So they still keep that on replay, all the old episodes. And we were watching that, and that's probably 2 or 3 episodes. It was like they just run it
Which
for
ones
hours
did
and
you
hours.
watch?
And I don't remember. One was Vivint, is a security company.
The one that I remember the most vivid is the 7-Eleven guy.
Oh yeah, these were some companies like they weren't necessarily recognizable names, but they were big companies. I mean, nationwide companies. But watching them 2 or 3 episodes in, and I started thinking, man, these business owners, these CEOs are really building culture in their business. By going undercover to find out, basically, market research about their company, and they're really finding out about the people. Why do more companies, not necessarily in an undercover situation, but why don't more companies, more business owners talk to their employees and really want to know about them, get to know them, not just about the job or anything, like really get to know what their employees are about and what kind of people they want to be or where they want to be in 10, 15, 20 years.
Well, part of it, they should go directly to all the employees, not if there's 2 or 3 managers in between them, say, okay, you got to get all your employees their surveys or whatever done, the yearly whatevers. And because part of that, I fill out, at my full-time job, I fill out a sales activity report for the week. And I just say, what significant events happened or whatever. And part of it at the end, are there any issues you need help dealing with? I know I put no issues. No matter if I have an issue, I put no issues because that'll go. Okay, so it goes to my manager, and then above him, and then above him, and then it'll go high up. And I know if we had a salesman who's really rogue like that, said he didn't care. He would put stuff there, and then our managers would get mad about it. Like, well, just come talk to us about that. We'll get it fixed. We don't want it high up there. Yep. Yeah. So I think a lot of managers just don't really have a clue.
So why is that? Why is everyone so scared to put down problems and issues? It's like they want to sugarcoat it all to make everything just look perfect. Like there are no issues, and I mean it's bogus.
From your point, if you're a manager and you have employees, and then you have bosses over you, you're responsible for those employees and those issues. Mm-hmm. They should never have to hear about the issues. You should just take care of it. Then if you need help, you go up. So if higher bosses hear about those issues, they're not going to try to fix them. It's not their job. They're going to go yell at you to fix it because you should have it taken care of. And I understand that. That's why our bosses don't want us to put that, even if we tell them about the issue and it still doesn't get fixed.
See, to me, that's a sign of bad culture. In a situation where you can't go to anyone above you, much less go straight, go to the owner or CEO of the company and tell them what your issues are or what issues you see. If you can't do that, that's bad culture, in my opinion.
So let's slow us down a little bit. So let's say Ashton is my boss, and then Tony, you're Ashton's boss. If I have a problem, I should go to Ashton.
Mm-hmm.
And then if Ashton can't handle it, does Ashton go to you or do I go to you? That's kind of like what you're saying too, right? Is like if I give Ashton an issue, even though he's handling it well, but it just can't get resolved.
He should
ideally I would.
Yeah.
In any large company, you should respect the chain of command.
Yeah.
But there's flaws in it.
Now, what about?
I see what you're saying. If he just flat out was like, "Nah, we're not going to take that out. And you're saying, "No, we need to take this to the top. We need this issue resolved," and they don't do that. Then I think that's a situation where you have to bypass.
I have a coworker. If we should have invited him on, he would have ranted. We'd have to have a lot of beeps in there, but he could have ranted all about this.
Yeah, do we?
Well,
that's pretty
not
bad.
In general, not in general, but no, he would like every other word. You get like 2 words, beep beep beep, a couple. It'd be like Morse code.
That'd be funny. Yeah, I really am trying to fight my urge to just start just cussing now.
Well, no, but he's someone who has sent emails up pretty high and gotten in trouble for him. But
for going straight up. Yeah.
But he was right in the well. I don't know that he was right in sending the emails, but in the situation he was talking about, he was right. So it's like our immediate managers really aren't going to do anything about it.
Is it a situation that he already knows it's not going to be resolved, and that it has to go straight to the top?
And it could be a situation where he's given you the same or similar problem, and it just doesn't always work out.
He probably didn't go by the book before he went up, but he did a little bit, and he realized this isn't going to be resolved here.
See, to me,
and he knows, but you're like, man, you got to go by the book, because if you get it high enough, the problem is it's going to be a principle of the thing. Nothing's going to get resolved, and really that's kind of how it happened. I mean, the manager got yelled at for the specific issue, but then he got yelled at, why are your guys emailing me? And
like I said, though, that's a sign of a company that has built bad culture.
Yeah,
because there should be no one in that chain of command that won't handle the problem, or if that is a problem, through yearly evaluations. Who does those yearly evaluations? I mean, that should come from the owner, CEO, like the highest level at your company.
But it trickles down. But this is at my company. It trickles down because I just did one of these a couple weeks ago. And so my sales manager reminded me, hey, it's available. Go do it. I do it. I answer the questions how I feel to evaluate myself. He'll check it, put some comments, and then I read it and he submits it.
But what if you have an issue with your sales manager? How do you – because if you put those in that, then he's going to just kick it back, right? Or there's that potential for that. Yearly evaluation should come from the absolute very top. To the very bottom person should be evaluated by the CEO, even if you've never met them. Yeah, that's who should be evaluating, because that should be a safe space for that employee to let the CEO know what it really is. It shouldn't be just an evaluation on what you've done. Obviously, you've done something right. You're still here. Mm-hmm. You tell me what you see in our company. This is my perspective. Now, maybe it's wrong or maybe it's right. But if I get your feedback about my company, that's only going to help me to be able to help you more.
So we've had them evaluations like that, not self-evaluations, but what we think of the company, and it was done by a third party, like not even anybody in our company. And then you just feel, say I'm in sales or a driver or whatever, and then you answer questions. And I know this isn't a yearly thing because we've only done it once in the almost 6 years I've worked there. And at the time, I've mentioned it multiple times on the show, we had a really bad manager, and nobody let back. We thought we told everything about that, and that's the last time we've had that.
So when you did that change anything though? Did you see significant changes with that?
there was a lot of politics involved with that situation.
See?
So everybody at the company or at that branch knew, and all of our it's kind of set up weird. So his immediate supervisor can still tell us what to do, and he's at a different yard, but he'll come over there a lot, and we can talk to him, and no problem. And a lot of people were aware, but let's just say because of the color of his skin, the company had to do it the right way. They couldn't just come in and fire him. So
the company felt like that's how
it's
they
really
had to
weird
handle it.
because you know a lot of companies say we have an open door policy.
Yeah.
And you probably could walk in the CEO's office, but it's not a good idea to do that unless you're ready to quit.
So I feel like you have great points, and I don't think you're wrong by any means. But I do think that sometimes it's different. Like, again, going back to you're my boss and you're Ashton's boss, what do you pay him to do? Like, it would be to handle this level stuff. Not saying that you won't do it, but sometimes for me, when I wanted something get done and my supervisor, my next level wasn't good, I knew they weren't going to cut it, but it also seemed like I was just going over their heads. So I wasn't allowing some people to do it. So what I got told is that, like, my big boss would be like, hey, I will handle this. And I get where you're coming from. He said, but you can't just come to me. Like, I also, like, it's not fair to them. Like, because then I'm just doing everything. And he's like, then that's me micromanaging. I don't want to do that. So I have to trickle it down. And so, like, my argument was, well, it's just going to go to you anyways. Let me directly go there. Or I thought it was an open door policy. And he's like, no, it is. But let them do their job first.
The open doors, like, that's last resort.
But where
stuff.
What I'm trying to get across, though, I mean, to go to the point of what you're saying, if you do a yearly evaluation and I do evaluation and I want to hear from you and you tell me, hey, this guy, I've tried to get these issues resolved. I don't know if you're hearing about them, but we don't see change at this level. We don't see it being taken care of. Then I know I've got a bad apple and I've got to fix that. And I got to fix it now because that creates bad culture for not just you, for anybody that's under this guy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I would assume that's not an isolated situation, that you would have problems with him. It's probably across the board. Everyone's having problems with him. So that's how a CEO needs to understand
that's
what they have, where they have bad apples.
Should be.
Because if you're always going to him and he never passes it to me, I think he's doing a great job because I never hear shit.
And you might not ever know. Right?
That's why yearly evaluations.
He's
that
taking
yearly
care
evaluation
of all the issues.
isn't solely, and really, in my opinion, is a very small amount of what you're doing. It's about what do you see as a company we can do. That's where the evaluation process should go. And too many owners or CEOs, especially owners for small businesses, bring in, okay, yeah, we're going to give you a yearly evaluation. Man, you've been doing great for us. All right, we're going to give you your 5% raise. All right, well, everything's good. Like, they just do it because they feel like they have to do it. They don't really want a feedback. They don't really want to know what the problems are.
So at GM, we have a yearly, or not a yearly, maybe it's 2 year or whatever it is, but we have, like, it's A, B, C, D. Like, you have to pick. You don't fill in the blank. It's like, nothing's ever negative and all this kind of stuff. And it's funny, but then on the back of it, we have our management review us, like how we did, know. And I have never seen so many people more mad about, like, look, they said I got 4 out of 5 stars. I'm like, dude, you suck at your job. You got 4. That's pretty good. Like, you should be happy. Say, wow, how come I didn't get 5? So then my boss comes and goes, hey, I did your review for you. And I look at it, I'm like, it's all 5 stars. He goes, yeah, dude, really good job. I'm like, take this back. That's not true. And he was like, what do you mean? I was like, I'm not giving anybody 5 stars ever.
There's always room for improvement.
He was like, what about you? And I said, I wrote needs room for improvement. And
that's why I think those type of systems where it is on a scale. I worked for the city of Burleson, and they did a similar thing. And basically, whatever you got was your raise. So you could get up to, I think that's how it was, maybe up to 5%. So whatever star you got, like that was the raise you got for the year. But that doesn't work because you're capping that, right? Just take all of that away. Take all the multiple choice. Like, let's just sit down and have a conversation. Right. And let me tell you, and for you, maybe it is important that there is. Maybe you need multiple evaluations. Maybe you do need your direct telling you, hey, these are the things, or that should come back to me like, hey, we see he should do this, this, and this. But then you come and say, man, I've been trying, but here's also, like, I just think that feedback is really important for a business to continue to succeed. I mean, you're talking about a company like GM, like, what you say probably
Huge.
nobody could care, right? Like they probably don't because it's such a big corporation.
So like for what I did was I got a blank one, and because I had to turn it in, right, and it was like one of the ones where it like you filled out what you thought you were gonna get, and then on the backside of it was like the same paper, or maybe it was another piece of paper. So I wrote like, 3 stars, needs room in every single section. I wrote needs room for improvement, and then when I turned it in, my group leader, I guess, gave it to my big boss, and he was like, look at this guy, always, because they always can count on me to be like words of wisdom, which is weird to me because I still feel like I'm a kid sometimes. And my big boss actually took it from my group leader and did my own review of me, and he said, if I could give you a pay raise, I would. And he's not allowed to really say that, but he's like, if I could pay you more, I would. And he's like, obviously I can't, but this is where he's like, you had like be able to handle the pressure better. He was like, no one gives more pressure than you. And he's like, so you think you need to handle? I was like, well, I did break a drill because I was mad that I just couldn't do something. So like I threw a temper tantrum. So, but like I need to improve on that. I need to improve on how I talk to people when they come through.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that your boss is that level of, I don't know how to express that. I guess that level of like, I want to say it's like the culture side of it, like just it can be person to person too. It doesn't having to be just one whole area,
right?
And I think it's harder to have an entire area of good culture. Most of the time I feel like it's just me. So
I think that's what's important for business owners or CEOs of corporations, to build a culture, and through this review process you find out who the negative people are. I mean, cancer grows, and it grows fast.
And what if it's
so when
just
you allow that in your company,
and not the CEO? You know, what if you just have a great, like you got really lucky and just hired a great team, but you have your leadership, the guy that's supposed to be running everything, is the cancer.
Yeah, that's
so you
even
have
worse.
The employees keeping everything together, which should be, I feel like it should be the opposite.
And you think, because we had that situation with that boss I mentioned earlier, he drove a lot of good people away. So instead of there was one guy, the same guy we were talking about, that went higher up and talked to people, which you have to. You can't go through the chain of command when your boss is the problem.
Well, that's the problem, exactly.
But most people aren't going to do that. They're just going to say, I don't want to put up with this. And I even put my notice in and was about to quit until people came and stepped in and took care of it. But that's what I did. I told his manager, I told the other manager, I said, I'm not bitching or complaining, but y'all asked me why I put my two-week notice in, and you asked me right in front of him, so I just kind of gave you a BS answer. Mm-hmm. So, but I'm telling you, like, I don't want to question anyone's intelligence, but he's either can't do his job or just doesn't want to do his job. So it's kind of like when you were saying earlier, if you're doing everything to make me look good, he doesn't know. He's just going to tell me good job.
Right.
Because you're doing everything that I'm supposed to be doing. And, of course, I'm going to give you 5 stars, even if you don't deserve it. Because if I give you 2 stars, unless I want to fire you, he's going to say, hey, so why is he that? Yep. What are you going to do to fix that?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So
that's
really
just, that's just
why
going
managers, you shouldn't go down the ladder to do evaluations.
Well, and that's why that evaluation type process doesn't always work.
Because sometimes if you're a higher level boss, you might not handle day-to-day stuff.
Yeah.
Which I as kind of like, I feel like what Ashton was going towards too is sometimes the higher, like the CEO, doesn't handle day-to-day stuff. Sometimes they don't handle, I don't think our plant manager, I mean, actually we have a really good plant manager. I'm not just saying that because I know his son, but before I knew, he works every single shift. Like he doesn't just, our old plant manager just worked one shift, like first shift. This new one, he comes to every shift. I mean, so like throughout the week though, he goes first one day, second another day. He's there all the time.
Yeah.
And before, like I knew who it was, but I never really saw him. But he's on the floor all the time, and he's, for being a plant manager, he's fairly relaxed and cool and calm, and he actually gets in there and looks at stuff. Like I've seen him walk around a lot more than I saw the other guy. So I feel like just, even though I've never personally really dealt with him, I feel like it's refreshing seeing him.
That's part of building that good culture is being seen and not being that person, that would that nobody knows, that nobody's seen, coming in the middle of the night working third shift.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And there's no reason I don't think he should be. I mean, because he definitely doesn't handle day-to-day stuff, but I think he's like putting himself there, or at least making a better, because like, you don't want the plant manager to do day-to-day stuff.
He can be your point of contact though, because you may have an issue and you don't know who to tell. You go talk to him, and regardless, he wants problem solved. He's a manager over all that. So
and there's so many people
concern.
that I see there that before I knew who he was, like he asked me like how I was doing. And I'm like, I don't know who this guy is. You know, he's another like upfront guy, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm like, and he didn't dress me differently. Like I figured like plant manager wearing like a fucking tuxedo and shit, you know, comes in with like his hair slicked back and like a butler or something.
Yeah.
But he was wearing like regular clothes and just was looking at trucks, and as I passed it by, he was like, "Oh, hey, what's up? How you doing?" I'm like, good, man.
You're like, I'm glad I didn't say anything.
You know?
Bad.
Yeah, right.
Like I'm fucking busy, man. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
Walk and talk. Walk and talk.
When do you guys see like the hierarchy of business and how businesses should be structured?
I feel like it's different though. I feel like like in my situation is a lot bigger business than like maybe a smaller one. Like probably, I feel like I probably work at a bigger business than any of y'all do. Like $1 billion company, right?
Well, look, like
so I think like that.
You always hear in businesses, and especially small businesses, because you're trying to build and you want to build good customer relations, that the customer comes first. The customer's always right. Like not that that's wrong, but I think that your employees should come first, then your customers, then it comes down to you.
I think you say customers come first because they're the ones bringing you money for like goods, and then it should be employees.
But if you have shit for employees because you put everything into customers,
yeah, I guess I can see it both ways. But
let's look at this scenario. In a situation that I have employees that are working really hard for me, right? And let's say somewhere like a Target or a Walmart, right? Like an employee makes a mistake or doesn't satisfy the customer. Maybe it's not even a mistake. Just how customers can be. They can be fucking assholes.
Right.
They're bitching. This customer comes in and is like, or the manager would come in and be like, oh, yeah, you're right. They didn't do right. Like you belittle this employee to show that the customer was right, because you see it all the time. I mean, I've personally seen this kind of stuff. I mean, I've seen it in my company that employees get put on the back burner just to make a customer happy.
So let's go back to Ashton's my boss and you're Ashton's boss, right? I fully expect you to say I made the mistake and like in front of the customer, and then Ashton is the one that's having my back. Like, hey, just don't worry about you kind of has to say that, but it's not belittling
but that
you.
only goes so far before you create bad culture.
And sure, if it happens multiple times, but I feel like, because
I look at it, okay, let's look at this situation.
Like a Karen comes
in a company that you force your employees, they have to work 7 days, right? Because a customer says, I want this deadline met. Right, and you go to your employees and say, hey, you got to work 12-hour days for 7 days straight. I can't give you guys a day off. Or even more than 7 days. Like you're working Saturday, Sunday, and then the whole next week. So you're working all these days straight, right? You can't be off. You can't spend time with your family because we got to make this customer happy. But in turn, that develops bad culture because everybody's pissed off because you're constantly doing this.
This is what I deal with on a week-to-week basis.
You're bringing the customer. You're putting the customer before your employees.
Yes.
And now this said company is seeing employees leave because this has gone on for so long that now you're seeing a crash and fall of a company because they put the customers before the employees.
So I work for a $1 billion company that does that exact same thing. We work 6 days a week.
Like he says, $1 billion company, like he hadn't already said who he works for.
Billion. Well, that's what happens when you build full
like
size
luxury he's trying to hide.
XUV.
Like I don't want to say it, but you've already said it in this episode a couple of times.
I just like saying $1 billion company.
Yeah,
it sounds cool. Sounds
GM just kind of goes under the.
So let's go back to your scenario where you say, "I wish that the manager or owner would come in and tell the customer, yeah, he messed up, right? If I put you first, if I put you first and I train you and I put everything invest in you and you are my person, and if the customer's wrong, the customer's wrong. But I have you, I never have to step on the floor and say shit.
Yeah,
I never have to step in.
Ideally.
If I put there's a lot, millions of companies out there that do it this way and are more successful. They don't have to take bailouts from the government. They don't have to shut their doors because
fuck you, Ford.
Well,
But you know what I'm saying? Like the point I'm trying to get by is if you build up your employees, they're going to do the dirty work for you. You're not going to. It doesn't matter. I could come and belittle you in front of a customer, and they're still going to leave pissed off and not happy. So what benefit was there in that situation, in that scenario?
I feel like,
except for I put you in a bad position. I embarrassed you in front of customers and who knows who else, just to try to save face with one customer.
It's definitely a slippery slope.
yeah, I
It
feel like
is, and I'm not going to say, oh, this is the only it is. It is a really slippery slope, and it's a fine line that you have to walk. But in my opinion, I would invest way more in building up my employees to make them my number one concern, because then that's going to trickle down, and they're going to take care of my customers.
I think you're 100% right.
And then I'm last in line.
Yes.
I'm putting everything. I'm investing everything. I'm putting everything I can, my whole energy, into my employees, to let them take care of my customers.
Yeah, the willingness to place needs of others above your own is the price of leadership.
Dude, that's big time culture building stuff.
I
Like
feel
that's when you have a good culture. That's the kind of stuff we're talking about.
And I feel like the manager's kind of missing the point when I agree that managers would probably just, say, yeah, it was his fault to make the customer happy, which really doesn't. And then tell you on the side, no, it's okay, don't worry about it. But really, if you're getting into an argument or issue with a customer that a manager has to be called, you're kind of already emotionally invested.
Right.
A lot of times I deal with customers all the time. And a lot of times, like, I don't care. I know they're wrong, but I can just do this. Let's just get it figured out. I just deal with them. And so if I'm willing to step, like, no, you're wrong, I'm already driven it past the point that I'm just going to let it go. So really the manager, like, I don't care what he says to me. I want to win this argument, or I want, even though
You want to resolve the.
I'm never going to see this person again probably, but still take my back. And you don't have to say you're wrong and he's right or vice versa. Just say, okay, what can I do to get this taken care of? We'll deal with it in-house or whatever. So you're not admitting fault to anybody.
In that situation, if I was your boss, Ashton, I would come to you and you need to go, like, how about take a break? I'll take over.
Yeah.
And then I'll try to deal with it. And then if you're still invested, like too emotionally invested, I'll take over. So you can, because, I mean, I think shit happens. And sometimes, like, a great leader like Thrasher, if I get too, I don't get mad at work, I get passionate at work. If I get too passionate, he steps in. And there's mutual respect there, first of all. So if Thrasher cuts in and says, hey, you need to take a break, I don't take it as like, hey, I'm not happy at that moment, but he takes over so that I don't look like an idiot later on, where I don't regret it. And then every single time it's ever happened, he doesn't say anything to me afterwards. It's not like hey, you need to quit. This is like the 5th time this week you've done this. It's him realizing what I'm going through, what I'm dealing with. Maybe the person that I'm talking to doesn't understand. So he knows me. He works with me. He'll push me to the side and be like, hey, I'll finish this. I'll finish this. And then, like, let me go take a breather or go outside or do whatever you need to do. He never tells me to calm down because, I think that if you're pissed off and someone tells you to calm down, it makes it worse. He just handles it. He'll go, hey, I got it. And he'll, like, start to nudge me a little bit. And, sometimes that's hard to, like, get away because I just want to tell that person how dumb they are. But he makes sure, like, I save face. So I think that's why there's mutual respect there. Is in the moment you might not like it, but afterwards when you're like, maybe when you get home, thank God he did that because I was about to look like an idiot. That's what I used to do at the Spice Rack. If my employees were having a hard time or like just a Karen or something, I would always just take over. That was my role I filled.
That's a manager's job to take care of the crap like that, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that way, because, you get paid by tips if you're in the food industry. So, like, I'm making sure you're still making money.
Well, let's look at that situation. Then you were over people. If there was a conflict with a employee and customer, do you come in and just tell that customer, "Oh no, this employee's wrong. Yeah, I'll take care of it." Don't you try to resolve. You have your employees back, right? Always. You 100%. Always do. So I think that's the point that I'm coming.
I'm on your side.
I think we're arguing the same thing, but it's the way that you look at it is. You have to have your employees back 100% all the time. So that, by definition, that puts your employee up here.
So, like, if my
above the customers.
If my
because if you don't have employees, you don't have a company.
If my owner,
obviously you have to have customers too, but
you know, they
Unless
might
you can
say,
solely
yeah,
do
it
it.
was the waitress or whatever, and it's my job to make sure that if the waitress does hear that, you know, she's gonna be upset. It's, you know, just think about what he's having to do. Like, he's saving face on this side. Like, is it? And then he'll come talk to her afterwards, right? It's like you'll hatch it out there, but like, let's calm down for a second, take it easy. Like, I'll take over, and then, or I might have switched spots with him, and like I'll handle this like your table the rest of the night, and then so it's happy. So you don't, because like Yelp will kill you. I think it doesn't matter food industry or what, like internet, Twitter, all that, you get decimated that way. So I think it's important that you have the leadership that comes in and establishes the culture. It starts at the top, I feel like, because you can't just be all employee based, because then
I think the opposite.
I
I
think you can be, like, as leadership, your employees are the important part, but you also have to. It's that slippery slope. You gotta kind of play both sides of the field, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, you can
Just to
wish,
be-
but the if you put yourself on top, you can wish culture all you want,
Right.
but unless it's truly built through the employees, then you're not gonna have a true company
You're
culture.
assuming
If
that
you,
if you're taking care of it, or not assuming, this is the way it should be, that if you're taking care of your employees, they're taking care of the customer. So there's
Yes.
going to be less situations.
yes,
And
Where
it's
they-
saying that you have like adequate employees too, because not all the time you can have great culture, but not great employees.
So a lot of the time,
I think if we look at companies that truly have, I'm telling you, there are very few companies that actually have good
And you
culture
should-
within the business. I mean,
We should
Yeah.
Google like the top 10 businesses to work for. That was another thing I had.
I mean, I'm telling you, culture based on like VaynerMedia, one of the top marketing companies in the country, in the world, maybe. Their culture, the company culture they've built is employee first.
Mm-hmm.
so in the,
The customers are gonna come. You're gonna, maybe Yelp. Yeah, maybe you lose a few. I've never even looked at it. I don't care what Yelp has to say. I mean, I've never
I
worked.
think it's situational for sure.
Facebook would be worse.
Well, you
than
you
Yelp.
know there's, but I mean we see it all the time now. You have all these Karens that are, and maybe you mentioned it. You have them there. Oh yeah, they're gonna bash them. Okay, well you still have a support system and customers.
Yeah.
And, I mean you're never. That's why I said earlier, you're never gonna make every customer happy.
Right.
So for me to deface my own employees to try to make a disgruntled customer, which if they're bringing up a huge issue, they're probably never going to be your customer again anyways,
Right.
regardless of what
Right.
what you do. It's not worth it to me to try to make this one customer. I mean, obviously, I'm going to try. I'm not saying I'm just going to tell this customer, fuck you, get out. Like,
Right.
we're going to try to work this situation. But you've seen it. You've seen it. At a certain point, there are customers
That's
that just
happened
aren't going to
before.
be happy.
You know, just leave. You know,
Yeah.
just,
So-
we're already fucked anyway. So
At a
I
certain
mean-
point, you have to.
And
you
that's
have
like
to-
worst case
You have to
scenario, I
save
guess.
face, and you can't ruin the employee culture, because if you do it to one employee,
Right.
dude, the whole fucking crew's
Right.
gone. Like, you've lost everybody if they
Right.
know that's the type of person that you would be, right?
And in most situations, if I guess it differs on the industry, but if there's a Karen and an employee, okay, not necessarily one of them they don't have to be wrong or right. It could just be miscommunication. But in that instance, one is wrong and one is right, and that doesn't mean you can't fix both situations.
So I guess like in a leadership perspective for you, if there is that issue with a customer and an employee, does it matter who's right or who's wrong? Or are you just trying to fix the problem? So I feel like
depending on the situation,
like-
I mean,
Yeah, I think that's all situational.
There's
no
obviously going to be a meeting
one.
after the fact, like,
Sure.
hey, let's figure out what happened. You may have been 100% wrong, but maybe Karen's 100% wrong.
Right.
If your name's Karen, I apologize. I don't want to offend anybody.
well,
but
you should be used to it by now.
yeah, right. You should have pretty thick skin if your name's Karen.
Yeah.
But if you're 100% wrong, if you bring up the issue, you're probably getting your meal free or something. You know, you don't have to fight hard
And that's
for that.
and that's
Yeah.
kind of what I mean about like saving face with the customer is like you might like comp their meal.
Yeah, I mean,
'Cause,
no,
like, at the end of
I'm
the day,
not
it doesn't really
arguing
matter.
that. Like, we'll take care of that. That's
Yeah.
fine. Like, that's
I feel like
nothing to a
My
business.
role as a leader is
But I think
to
that
take
you're-
care of the problem first
yeah.
that
and
doing
then
that, like
settle it later.
comping a meal or, at no charge for anything, like whatever that is to keep that customer happy, is what you take care of there. But that also helps you to take care of the employee, to cover up them
Right.
without belittling them. And that, I think that's where I'm trying to
Try to balance it.
make this point,
I
is
think
that
that will
the
fix
employees
it
have
with
to
the
come first.
customer.
I'm never going to throw my employee under the bus. And I think you see that entirely too much in businesses
agree.
today. And that's why a lot of small businesses don't make it, because that's what they do. I mean, we can argue corporations can do whatever they want. It's really not going to
They're not going out of
affect
business.
No, they're not going to go to business out of one
Right.
disgruntled employee. We're talking small businesses that maybe they're only making it week to week. Like, their
Right.
sales do matter. But if you piss off a handful of employees and they say fuck you and they walk, dude, you might have to
screwed
shut
there.
your doors,
Right.
right? Like,
And you're going to have issues
you
with
don't
customers. Issues come up. And
Oh,
if you're
yeah.
having to keep hiring new employees, it's going to come
you have
up
a lot of
because
turnover, it's gonna be
they don't
tough.
know how to, it takes a while to not only learn how to do the job, but to get your mindset that you work for this company, you're proud of it, and you're going to take care of the customers. Because comping somebody's meal, that's probably going to take care of the situation. If it comes to you're going to lose them as a customer unless you admit that your employee was wrong, even if they're 100% wrong, you don't need that customer. That type of person,
you do what you have to do in that situation.
Yeah.
But you're not going to, if someone's pissed off, they're pissed off, and you're probably not going to change their mind.
Right.
And really, I mean, we could probably look up some statistics. I mean, how many times have you left pissed off somewhere? You're like, I'm never doing business with them. And then you probably end up going back and doing business anyways. Like, time passes. So, but I would never use an employee to try to fix that situation.
belittle.
I would never
Yeah.
belittle them. I would never throw them under the bus, because I think that creates, for what we're talking about, building a culture, that's the worst thing you can do about building a culture.
And really,
Because,
if
yeah,
your
maybe
employee
it's-
was wrong, it's really on you because they weren't
Exactly.
trained properly
Exactly.
or whatever. Like, you can pull that aside later and said, hey, in this situation, she was right. Like, after the fact, when she's gone or whoever's gone, this is what we should have done in this situation. Let's just get it back.
So
next
I
time,
feel like that's good leadership and that's good culture.
My philosophy in all of this, and this was taught to me by several generations in my family, that there are no bad employees. There's only bad management.
God,
You can take any employee and make them a good employee through good culture, proper training,
figuring out what their strengths are.
Figuring out what their strengths
putting
are.
them in a situation to
and maybe a
succeed.
situation like we roll this back to, we were talking about the Undercover Boss show, an owner coming in and finding out what this, don't expect every employee that comes in and works for you that they're going to be a lifer, that they're going to retire with you. Find out personally what they love and what their aspirations are beyond that. Maybe they are just using this as a stepping stone. It doesn't mean you can't invest in them and train them and allow them to help you be successful and possibly make more money through the time they're there, right?
And I think too many managers are stuck on trying to make sure your employees don't screw up, that you make sure the bad employees are doing a good enough job, and not focused enough on, are you holding back the good employees that can help you? Yeah, they're a good employee. They're good. I never have to worry about them. But then you don't ever go check up. Like, I got that figured. I'm going to focus on these guys, which you should focus on all employees and figure out what, even if they're, you just said no bad employees, so I'm not trying to contradict that, but they're not up to par with, like, this is a really good employee over here.
No, I mean,
So you got to figure out, every job's
there
not
are
for
employees
everybody.
that there are going to be more challenging than others,
Yeah.
right? Some are just self-motivated. Some you have to dig in and find that motivation.
But you
I mean,
can't
brought
ignore
up
them if they're already
our
self-motivated and
dad.
already doing great.
Bob Nix. You brought him up, our dad. Like, he took some of the worst apples, like some of the worst employees, and turned them into pretty good employees. I mean, not that they became all-stars all the time, but turned them into productive employees that wanted to show up to work on Monday and would give you 5 good days. Would give you a good 40-hour week's worth of work. I mean, you really can't ask more than that. You're too many times that the lower level employees are compared to the ones that strive, that have great aspirations, right? Like, those are employees. Yeah, they're working hard for you. You want a team of them, but the problem is when you put too many of those type of people in the same area, that eventually they're going to move on, right? You otherwise you're holding them back, and they're going to leave you for better
Yeah, 'cause
opportunities.
there's only so many spots you can move up at certain companies.
Exactly. So if I were to move up in somewhere and I hit a wall and it's like, I can't move up because this guy's ahead of me and I'm not like, we're all working hard. Well, then I'm going to leave and go look for a better opportunity with a better path to get to where I want to be, right? So you're always going to have those lower level employees just to fill space, like just to take care of certain situations. And then when you do come across that hardworking, that person that has the drive, you cultivate them, and hopefully eventually they can move to a point in your company that they're going to help you. Otherwise, if you see that the potential they have and you're going to cap them, you've got to let them go. You've got to help them. You've got to put in recommendations to help that person. Why would you ever hold somebody back in life?
Yeah, and people, if they're in the right job, they can be really good for you. And even if they're going to stay, I know people that will work a menial position, like very, very low, or society would think is a low position and they're not motivated or whatever. Some of the hardest workers, and they'll work in that same position. They have no aspirations to move up. They're good there. They'll work hard for 30 years. And that's good when you can find those employees to be in that situation. I mean, just because they're not motivated to move up doesn't mean you don't want them.
Yeah.
I mean, because there's menial positions that are important. I would say menial, that's a bad word, but like more labor positions, like pulling loads and things like that, that you don't want new guys doing that all. You don't want just a group of new guys, because there's some wisdom involved in that, just knowing the experience. So you want guys doing those jobs that you're going to have. You need experience in those, and sometimes, I mean, they're offered promotions and things like that, but I guess it's just being able to recognize and pay attention and cultivate both sides of it and take care. He's doing good, but just because he's motivating himself and he's good, he's doing everything he needs to do, you still need to check up on him and work with him, because before you know it, he just, like you said, he's not going to move up. No one's offering him anything. No one's helping him, and he just moves on.
Yep. And then you lose all of that benefit you had with him.
Yeah.
So with that, if you're building a positive culture, in your workplace, employees are, after a weekend, they show up on Monday. They really they're excited for Mondays to come, right? They're ready to get back into the work. But when you have a bad culture, employees don't want to show up on Mondays. That they go in and, they even mail it in early on Friday. So maybe you get a good 3 days worth of work out of them.
Yeah.
And they come back from vacations. And we've all been in situations like this where we come back from a vacation Monday morning. You're like, oh, I need to be back on vacation.
Yeah.
Like there's no motivation that you want to get back. But then there's been times a lot for me, especially being an entrepreneur and having my own businesses. I mean, I would take a vacation. I'd come back and I was so excited to get back. Not that I didn't enjoy my vacation, but I was so excited to get back and get back into the grind. And I know you've been in places like this where you're just so into the grind, like you're motivated to show back up after a weekend or after a holiday or a vacation. You're really motivated to get back in there, and then you're going to work all the way until you punch out the last day. Like you're excited to be there to work.
Yeah, especially the job I have now. I mean, I'm surrounded by bad culture actually, but the area that I'm lucky enough to work in now, we have great culture. So it's
within your department, per se.
Yeah. If we have like a long weekend or something like that, it's almost like I'm not really good at saying this word, the camaraderie.
Camaraderie,
That's hard to say. Like I have is, it's like hanging out with the boys, basically. It's like doing this with you guys, it's sometimes work sucks, but it's, I have. And
you'll get in that mode where you're just kind of hanging out, you're working, you're doing good work, and you're not looking at the clock every 5 seconds.
Right.
And maybe you're working late or something. You're like, oh, that kind of flew by. Like you don't care.
And like sometimes it kind of sucks when you're in the middle of your grind or in the middle of working and you have that person like, man, I just don't want to be here. Like it kind of like, obviously I would rather be watching TV or doing something at home or playing video games, something. But once I'm at work, I almost have like a whole nother personality trait that takes over. Like I'm not, like I'm in work mode and I'm ready to do stuff and I enjoy being there. It's because like I'm doing something. I'm like making the product better. I feel like if you were to buy, I wish we could have like shifts per truck, like which ones I work on. Like those are the best trucks to get. Like I always tell, if I see like a truck running down the road, I'm like, there's a 33% chance that I touch that truck, that I built that truck. Like, you might get that one. You might get
my first driving job.
That you put your heart into it.
Yeah, my first driving job, I delivered for Dollar General. My wife will tell you, she gets annoyed. Like I'll tell her, oh yeah, I delivered that one before, and I delivered that one before. But you just have to find what motivates, because everyone's motivated by something. Maybe it's stupid things, but like you're just like doing the work.
Right.
Because there's some jobs that just suck.
Yes.
Because, mowing yards in Texas in the summer, that's going to suck. I did that for a while.
I think we've all been there.
Yeah. I did that for a while. I think I worked for that company for about 6 or 7 months.
Although those zero-turn mowers are fun to drive.
And sometimes you just get in a groove, and it's just satisfying mowing. But when you're getting it perfect and you're not dealing with a bunch of crap, you stop thinking about the heat, and you just get into that groove.
I think that's taking pride in what you do, though.
Yeah.
I think that's an important part. That's what people ask me, like, why, y'all work so well together. It's because we all take pride in what we do. Thrasher, Brett, me, we all take high pride in what we do.
And that's on the manager.
But and that's where when culture's built, you do take pride and you want to show up and you want to continue to do a good job when you've built good culture.
And
I mean, think about here, like we've built a culture even with just a small group of people here
I'm always
within our
gonna be like,
podcast, right? But we've built a culture that you want to come, right? You want to continue to be here. That we're going to continue to show up. Like we all strive. We're all texting throughout the week. Like you have notes and notes of things that you've put together even over the years. Like that's something that motivates you, right? But we've built that culture where you can come and you have a voice on this show. It's
Right.
not me. It's not you. It's not just you. Like we all are on the level playing field. Now we all have our strengths and our weaknesses, and I'm not usually going to do intros because that's just not my strength, right? You're always going to bring a completely different perspective, and you're going to bring the fun and silliness to our show. But we've built a culture that allows everyone to be themselves, right? Like, but then that's motivating for you to continue to work to be
Right.
better, right?
So-
We don't put a cap on anyone.
And managers are, I guess, would be your manager's lucky to have you because it's not hard to motivate you. You can put you
Right.
in any job,
Yeah.
and you'll find something in it that satisfies you.
Right.
Now, some people, it's harder to deal with, and most managers, like at my job, I hope nobody is listening at my job that of any importance. I might not have a job tomorrow, but there are issues with some of our poolers that some of them they take advantage of the situation. They can call in once a week or sometimes 2 or 3 days in a row and just say, "Oh, my head hurts," or "I'm sick," or whatever. And they're like, "Okay, whatever." We don't really do anything about it. But in the office, the manager's always bitching about them. "Oh, he called in sick again today." It's like, okay, well, that's not okay because now all your good employees that are there every day have to work harder and maybe even longer now to make up for that. And then you have multiple people doing it, and then some people, they walk in late and you're like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" And then the next guy comes in, then you start bitching at him. So instead of pulling him aside and figuring out what the issue is, like you don't necessarily have to call him out and say, "I know you're lying about being sick," but you just say, "You don't seem to like working here or something. Is there something we could," because there are 10 people doing your job and, they might bitch because of the heat and it's a hard job, but they show up just about every day. They have fun with it. I see them. They're in a good mood. There's something that you could be doing, and maybe some of it's, bringing donuts on Friday or
Yeah.
just some little things that people look forward to. At our job, we used to, the manager would leave early, go on Fridays and go buy a big case of beer. And everyone would just kind of sit around the parking lot and drink before they go home. And it's just little things like that the manager has to, I know you can get locked into what your actual job is, but I think anything that happens to any of your employees, maybe it's not whatever the specific situation is, maybe payroll or something, has nothing to do with you. It's above you, but it's your job to make sure that's taken care of. Because morale, I don't care if this dude's wife's cheating on him or this dude didn't get his paycheck the right that he was promised or whatever. You may just say, "Oh yeah, you got to talk to them about it," or you got to leave that at the door, which to some extent you do. But it's your job to make sure morale, culture, everything's copacetic.
I think you mentioned it about asking that employee when they're coming in, "Hey, is everything okay?" Like asking questions is huge. Like that can, like for me, for sure. I mean, I think we could all agree on it. If you have an issue or something's going on and you're anybody above you, your manager or even higher up comes to you and just asks you, "Hey, is everything okay?" Like, "Hey, how's it?" Like you said, "Hey," the plant manager, "Hey, how's it going?" Like that touched you. Like that meant something
Right.
to you when he asked.
And
Even something so little as that to say, "Hey, how are you?"
And even if you just said, "No, I'm fine," and then it ended at that, it still leaves something with you.
It
Like,
does.
"Man, I'm glad he cares." And rather than, I'm sure we've all called in sick to work one time when we're not sick. We're dealing with something else.
Yeah, I
but
did that.
like,
to come do the podcast.
well, something that's negative, something wrong. Like, maybe, I don't know, but you're not going to tell your manager that. You're just going to say, "Hey," it's just easier to say, "Hey, I'm not feeling good. I won't be in today." And sometimes, they're never going to know. Okay, he's sick, whatever. And that keeps happening. You're thinking, you can just say, "Oh, okay," and then bitch to all the other employees like, "Man, he called in sick again. We got to work harder now, guys."
Yeah.
Rather than figuring out there's something
Yeah,
up here.
maybe
Like
you ask that
maybe it's
question.
going to come to he's not right for the job and you're going to have to fire him. That may be it, but either fire him or make it better. You can't just let him
Or
drag
find
on.
out personally, like we talked about with these evaluations. Find out about people personally. If they have things going on in their life, you know, maybe they just need somebody to talk to about it. Maybe there's something you can help them. You know, if you have an employee that's having issues, and you ask them, "Hey, is everything okay?" I mean, you've called in sick a few times. Is your health okay? Like, are you good? Is there anything we can do for you? Like, that's a morale booster. That's a culture builder. Is when you haven't something not just asking it just to ask it, right?
Right.
Like, I can come and say, "Hey, you doing all right? Hey,
You know,
is
sometimes-
everything okay?" And you're like, "No, I'm. Oh, okay. Well, if it's negative, I don't want to hear it." No, if you really invest and you want to hear and ask these questions, that can be a huge culture builder.
You know, and sometimes it's that the "Hey, how you doing?" is more of a greeting. You know, like that person really doesn't care.
You're
know,
just going to say, great, how are you doing?
You know,
like, it doesn't even matter.
I actually had a really good group leader, Otto, that he told me that like part of being a group leader is you have to be a friend, a father, a mother, whatever, a priest. Like you have to be there for your person.
Yeah.
And I remember because I didn't need it. I didn't need to hear that, but like me, like maybe I did need that because like hearing that I'm like, wow, like it's not just someone that just my whole day is people coming to me with problems. No one ever asked me how you doing, or more of it's just like a greeting or a passing by, they're like, hey, how you doing, as they walk past me, I have Otto, when he'll come to me, he'll come up and be like, hey, what's up? And I'd be like, what do you need? And he'd be like, just what's up? Nothing. Like, how you doing? And it's kind of, and then like we'll stop and talk for a second, and then he'll go, okay, this is what I have coming to you, and like then he goes on to it. It's always like because no one ever greets me at work. It's always, hey, we have this problem, blah blah blah, and that's all day long. No one says hi to me, and Cody will come up and be like, you're gonna be mad at me, so I'm gonna start off with, how you doing? What'd you eat for lunch? And then it's kind of like small talk, and like I'll laugh, and I'll be like, what's up? He'll be like, this is what I have for you, So it's different when another group leader comes by and he'll be like, hey, I need you to do this. I'm like, hey, hi Warren, how you doing? He's like, oh yeah. So we have, and I'm like, okay, So
it's like compassion that they put
I
into
tend to
it.
almost like skirt him, and then like, but if Cody or Odd, they need something, I'll put aside some of the stuff that I'm doing, and then go help them. Like I'll go way out of my way. Because they did the same thing to me.
But they've spent the time to actually care about, and even when there was nothing they had, they really they were invested in what you had going on.
Right, and that's like my own, like sometimes you can cultivate just your own culture, with people that you deal with. Yeah. So like my big boss, he never complains to me. I might always complain to him, or I might do the thing that Warren does to me. I might come to him with problems, and I have to stop and be like, how you doing? I have to remember that sometimes too, because it's not, if you're in work mode, sometimes
so you see that on such a micro level. But think about it in a macro, in that $1 billion company. Right. If everybody was like your little group is, how much that would change the culture in that business. I mean, think about how much more money with positivity, with people showing up,
how
really
much better things would work. You
could have things you could cut out. You may not cut out your department and fixing shit,
but it would. Yeah.
But if you had people showing up, how much money could that make that company? By no additional investment.
Right.
Only the investment of time and caring.
Right.
And really caring about people.
Right.
I think that's my main point to make about the whole putting your employees first, is that when you see it in the micro, just think about in the macro
you can definitely
what that
tell,
could do.
Especially like where I work, where it's so large, and because like realistically, there's no way our plant could have great culture. There's too many people. There's too many negative Nancys. There's too much crap, or people just not caring enough. Because I think to have good culture, you also have to care.
Yeah.
Your employees have to care. So like where I work now, like we're solid because everyone's on the same page. Everybody has the same values. Everybody has the same wants. Like we just want to get stuff done, and we get shit on a lot. But like that, I think that also helps build culture, because it might look easy, but it's because we make it look easy. If you take one of us out, it falls apart. Whether it be, Brett and I are the star athletes, if you will, and Thrasher's more of a cheerleader, but when he's not here, we're not star athletes as much as we could be when he's here. So like he's a pivotal part of our team. Whether he likes to say, he'll never say he's the reason why we're good, but when he's not there, you can tell, there's a big difference.
Yeah.
So I think, but that's just because we have great culture with or without him. But he's the one that really, he's like the keystone basically. So I think is hard if it's a bigger company. I think if smaller company, if you don't establish it right away, I think it will go south quicker. But I mean,
so you have a list of culture building ideas, like ideas. I mean, we haven't really gotten into that as much of. We've talked about what culture is and kind of good or bad culture, but how can someone that has, I mean, mostly our small businesses, when you have bad culture, how can they fix that? What can they do to fix their bad culture, or maybe even to start, when they're starting a new business, to start off on the right foot with good culture?
So what I have here is, I just wrote this down because I thought it would be an interesting thing, is like maybe listeners' culture, like what is it, right? So I have culture of an organization is a reflection of the values, beliefs, and behaviors of the current leader and the past. So I feel like I'm pretty good about learning from people that used to do the job or were here. I reference probably Bob Nixon. I probably should. Is not my father, but he was an important person in my life. And there's a ton of things that I learned from him because, I mean, he just oozed knowledge, I'm pretty sure. Like, he knew everything all the time. So there's just multiple things that I got from him. Values is one thing that he was pushed hard too. And my current leadership pushes values. We're all on the same, being all on the same page, all having the same amount of values. So that's like what our goals are. All of them are the same. And they could be too high because my expectations at work are always higher than everybody else's. But it's because I hold myself to that standard. And I think that's where you have to start is, I think you have to have empathy. I think you have to trust and you have to build that relationship with your people to get the culture going. And it starts with your leadership. You can't have a bad leader and have good culture. I think the leader has to put that foot down. And I have a couple things like, I don't know if I want to read all this stuff because I'm not a great reader.
I just hit a few points you know that are really important that the listeners could take.
What's the guy on Instagram that you showed me the other day?
Gary Vaynerchuk.
That's it. Yeah. So he had something on there, like the positive values and limiting values. Did you see that one?
I don't remember.
His positive ones were like positive values were trust, creativity, passion, honesty, integrity, and clarity. And then he said limiting. So notice the limiting could be bureaucracy, power, blame, greed, status seeking, which that kind of goes into confidence and like what kind of swagger you have. Like I tell everybody, end of line repair, you have to have a lot of swagger just because you deal with so much crap. And there'd be things like, yeah, I might not know how to do it, but they go, hey, we need to fix this. So I don't have a choice. I can't. I guess I could. But we have good culture, so we don't. I always say, we'll try it. We'll try to do it. So I think the status seeking and the power, I am greedy at work. I want to be the best possible. So I have like that Kobe Bryant mentality. I feel like is I'm trying to be the best ever, and even though I'm not the most talented person, Brett's definitely more talented, but I'm holding myself to Brett's standards, even though I'm not as good. But it's that. I guess that goes back to the values again. I'm going to say that a whole lot, I guess.
I think that is big, though. I mean, values and everything is, it
has to be, I guess what I'm trying to say is you have to be on the same page.
Yeah.
All your values have to be the same. And if you get too greedy or too much power, if you will, that it becomes limiting. So you have to be able to take that step back sometimes.
Yeah.
Just like a thrasher, if I need a break, he'll push me to the side type of thing. So I can't let that hit my pride as hard as it probably does. I have to take that step back, and I think that's important. Employees being able to do that. If, like we were talking about earlier, if a customer gets in an argument with me, my leadership should come and part it and handle it and then let me cool off and then maybe not let me deal with that person again because it might spark it back up, right? So,
and empathy was a good one that you mentioned. I think just because when your employees do something or coworkers, a lot of time you don't have all the information right up front.
Right.
So it's not only empathetic to, okay, let me look at that side of the story. Sometimes in the heat of the moment, you don't have time to do that. Just
Right.
know, okay, he's dealing with something. It's whatever. Not, man, did you see what he fucking did? He just stormed off, like, just assume, later you can go on and deal with it. It's the same going back to what you just mentioned, going back earlier with an employee and a customer, is an employee can be wrong. Like,
Right.
maybe to the letter of the law, he could be wrong. That's not our policy. But being empathetic and listening, well, this is why he did it, and understanding that. And then you can even go back and say, yeah, I get what you were doing, but we have to do it,
Right.
So, I think empathy, integrities, I think, is a word that people hear and they just say, yeah, that's important. That's all the time important. I think empathy kind of gets pushed aside.
I think sometimes empathy could be even more so. Empathy is, it's right in line with asking those questions. If you're empathetic for somebody, you're going to ask questions. I think that too many times you want to just tell somebody how it's going to be instead of asking their opinion, or
Right.
even asking how they're doing, or, how much different does it go for you when someone comes up to you and truly cares what you
Right.
have going on? You're willing to go out on
And
the line.
even
for 'em.
sometimes, you're a boss and say, we got to do this. I know. But just
Yeah.
listening to them. But this is why and be like, I understand.
So that's exactly the way.
This is
So-
why we have to do it. It's
So
coming
say
from a
that
bigger person or
you,
whatever.
in the situation like I talked about earlier, you have a company and they are asking you, or not even asking, they're saying, we got to work 7 days. Sorry, we got to work 12-hour days, guys. Like, how much different could we, if we turn that around and I come to you two? So this is what we're in this situation, right? We have to work 7 days. Instead of me coming and saying, hey, you got to work Saturday, Sunday, cancel all your plans. I don't care. Be here early, right? Like, or if I come to you and say, man, guys, we're really in a predicament, and I hate to ask you guys this, and I know you'll have a lot of things planned and a lot of stuff going on with your family, but we're in this situation. We have a deadline we have to meet. Is there any way you guys can help me out and
I feel
give me
like-
this extra time
Get
that
in
we
here,
need this
let's
weekend?
Let's get shit
Is
done.
there
and
something?
Then we'll
Is there
leave
something
early on Saturday?
Is there something we can do? Exactly. There you go. Like, really care about it. Like, start off with that
Understand
empathy.
what you're asking.
Yeah, exactly. That man, I think that was what I was trying to get to. But
And,
it wasn't- not
usually
in
the
same
manager
words.
knows, because the manager's pissed off because they have to come in too. But just acknowledging it, because a lot of times employees will get locked in, because even I hear bitching all the time about higher ups, and I always think I have empathy for them. I'm like, thinking in my head, there's a reason they don't just do this, to just say, hey, look what they have to do. We're just going to mess with them and make this policy. There's a reason that's in place, whether or not it's right or not. So
Sometimes
I
it's hard to see the big picture.
Yeah,
too, if
that's
you're
why
the employee.
I try not to bitch too much, because it's easy to say, well, they just don't see what's going on down here. Well, most of them started off down here, so they may or may not.
I think another culture building, while we're on the topic of empathy, another culture building thing would be when you have a hierarchy where you have managers and managers under them and sub-managers, that kind of trickle down, is to make sure that they carry that same passion and that same empathy as it goes down. Because it doesn't matter if I have it here, if 2 levels down they don't give a shit, then they're not sending the message that I want to send from the top.
Right.
So I think you have to make sure that
Yeah,
you have
'cause-
like-minded people that at least have the same empathy as it goes
Yeah,
down.
because policies can go down all the way, and you just force it on them. But you can't force empathy on somebody. You can't force integrity. They can just say whatever. But if it's something like like our company, when we meet our monthly goal, the next month we'll have a free lunch sometimes or whatever. But if it's something like that, and then up high, we're like, yeah, we do this to take care of the employees. I met your goal. We're good job. But then the manager just kind of like, whatever, we'll get to it when we get to it, not understanding why. Then people are like, hey, you owe us a free lunch. What do you? And then it becomes a big issue. Like, take pride in that. Like I know shit's going on, and you can go all day long argue about productivity and taking, when you take time to do this, it really makes you more productive rather than working straight through something.
You think you can always make excuses to not do things like that.
Yeah.
That, well, our production will slow down, or this will happen. Yeah, well, if you continue on, it's kind of what we talked about with, you work, then people don't want to show up on Monday
Right.
motivated. Give them that true break. Give them that. So give them the lunch. Who gives a shit? Like, yeah, we're busy today. So what? Like, we'll be
What
busy
is it,
tomorrow.
like
we'll be busy the
$150
next
to
day. We'll
feed
be
everybody, and it's
or even if you're looking at the loss of time, like, So what? How much more time will
And
you gain?
that's what it is,
when you
'cause they
build that
bitch-
morale.
They bitch and they're like, man, I don't want to have. They'll never do it on a Friday, but because they know as soon as people eat, after lunch on a Friday, you're done. Like you're talking about selling it earlier. It's like no, because Friday we want to get shit done. We don't have to work on Saturday, so we won't do it on a Friday because they know everyone's going to slow down when you have a big meal. It's not just a sandwich; it's barbecue or something else. But that's exactly it. Is the time they're worried about.
I think if
wasting.
you build a good culture, then you can forget about those type of things. Like you won't even think about, it's Friday or it's Monday. Production's low. We gotta. If you build a good culture, you're gonna have the same production Monday through Friday.
Right.
You're gonna have people, through Saturday, whatever it is, right? Like when you're really motivated and you really enjoy it, I don't think that's gonna have a factor in it.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you, putting the hours in doesn't necessarily mean anything.
No.
Because I know if they want to catch up, I'm blessed enough I don't ever have to work on weekends. Well, I mean, I do at home, but I don't ever have to go in. But sometimes our guys do at our yard. And I know if they come and work half a day Saturday, you're trying to get caught up. One or two guys are going to call in on Monday because they had to work on Saturday. Mm-hmm. I'm like, unless there's something that this particular load has to go out and you have to do it, I'm like, it's pointless to work on Saturday because you're trading half a day of laziness. Like most guys probably aren't even as productive on Saturday. They're just like, we get in here, get our half day, and get out. You're trading in a half day of slight productivity for a full day of. You're on Monday, you don't want to be there, but you're more productive on a Monday than you are working a half day Saturday.
And that's like what goes on at GM is that we work every Saturday, and sometimes like we'll be down hours because like something broke or we didn't have parts or whatever. So everybody's like, why are we here? And like on our employee low side of it, we're thinking like, why don't you just do every other Saturday? Like give us a little bit of a break. Everybody would be happier and come back. But it goes back to that, like not every employee is good. So they're like, well, once we get one Saturday or we get 2 Saturdays off a month, like they're going to want 3 Saturdays. It's never going to be good enough. And the bigger picture is like, we don't get paid unless we push trucks out. So like you have to push those trucks out. So understanding my side for understanding the business side of GM is like, we have to push trucks out, like that end of story. So like when people are like, well, why are we even here? Why are we running? I was like, because our job is to push trucks out. So like, that's what we're doing. So another good thing is like Thrasher, he never complains to me or us. Because it's not his spot. He complains to his boss, and my big boss Keith. He never one time has ever been anything negative or like mad about something. He never complains to me. He's told me it's because it's not your job to hear me complain. That's my boss's job. He's like, you come to me and complain, I'll handle it, or I'll find somebody to handle it for you. But he said, I'll never complain to you because. It'd be like a situation at work happened, and he's like, I'm not disagreeing with you, and like personal level, you're right. But it's not how we handle it. You have to go through your certain stepping stones, and that helped me build culture with him basically, because it's that trust in my leadership that he'll handle it, he'll work it out, and that I never thought about what if he complained to me.
Yeah, you're talking about complaining, and we're talking about productivity. Complaining is one big productivity killer, and to some extent. Venting, it's good to allow, like everyone kind of gets camaraderie, like we were talking about earlier, with bitching about management and bitching about corporate. And, sometimes to some extent, our yard, with 3 locations in DFW area, and our yard kind of, we feel like we're the stepchild. And there's a running joke where we're in Fort Worth, we're Fort Worthless or Fuckworth. But we kind of run off that like, we'll get it done because it's when they can't do it and they can't do it, they give it to us because they don't want to have to deal with it, and we'll get it done. So to some extent, there's a line there that it's okay to like screw corporate, screw the man type situation just to build a camaraderie, but just bitching and complaining all the time for no reason, like you got to do it. It's okay
kind of
to
wears
bitch.
on you.
It's okay to bitch and
it's
complain sometimes. But there's productive bitching and complaining you can do.
Do you know how many employees are at your location in GM?
I'm going to be wrong, but I think it's like 3,000.
I was going to say like 5. I was going to say 10,000. So I was like, I thought I heard that one time, but I may be wrong.
I think it's like 3,000 in the whole plant, like all 3 shifts.
Dang, that seems small.
Yeah, I thought I heard like GM fired just the coronavirus stuff, like a few thousand people just in Arlington. But
No, I could be wrong. It might be
Yeah, I don't know. I was trying to find that, and I don't.
how many
see-
employees are in GM? Do you know that?
like an all
The
of them?
entire company employed by GM.
Bunch.
Oh no, I did find it. Here it is. It's 4,976.
That's
Pretty
that'd be
close.
on all
Pretty
three.
close.
That'd be on all 3 shifts. So it's
Yeah, that's hourly plus 450 salary.
Oh yeah, I
employees.
wasn't counting salary. So I would say it's probably
It's 4,500.
just easier, like 1,000 person a shift. Maybe I don't think it's that high, but
Wow, I was looking.
and that's not
at,
including maintenance either.
It's
the
a lot of
Tesla factory.
logistical-
Just the Tesla factory has 10,000 employees.
That's crazy.
Wow. I was just looking at because I know that the Tesla factory has a lot of automation, and I didn't know if that would.
I mean, our whole
Cut
like the
down.
new body shop is
It's a lot.
They cut down a lot of
automation. There's
manpower.
still
There is a
10,000
lot of
employees.
automation. No, they have a ton of it. Yeah.
because like I just when I first got to the gym, I thought like in the paint shop, I just figured it was like guys painting trucks, right? Like you see in like West Coast choppers and stuff. It's all robots. That no one actually paints.
The guys in the
There's not a
paint shop
single
are
person.
clicking on their
Yeah.
computer.
Right.
and
It's
then
more like
tells-
a button. You just push a button in like they. Yeah, I'm not really sure what paint does actually.
like their monkey. The monkey could do that job.
Well, that's how our entire shop is set up. Is like there are jobs where you guys could come in and learn it.
Yeah.
Like that's how easy. There's jobs
Where
where
you have that confidence in us that we can learn some of those jobs.
I mean, some of it is easy as you put a part on and then you push it down and that's all you do. Like that's it. There's other jobs where like there's no way you would be able to learn it in. So we have up to 3 days to learn every job. Any job in the plant, up to 3 days. So, but you're doing it 400 times a day.
Yeah.
So like eventually you'll learn it. And there's some jobs that like hoist are a little different. Like doors on took me a little longer to learn than 3 days. Just because like figuring the job out is one thing, and then figuring out how to work the hoist is another thing.
Yeah.
But like my job right now, they told me that it would probably take me like 6 years to learn how to do. So like, that's crazy to me. And at GM, I'm a fast learner, but I would probably say doing my job, I probably know at 16th of what I should. Maybe like it just takes time to figure it out.
But in situations like that, you've talked on previous episodes that you'll learn how to do this, and you'll be asking questions. Don't worry about that. It's not your job.
Right.
You get down where all you're doing is pushing this down and screwing it in. That's it. That's all
If you're
do.
on like the
It
production
doesn't
line,
matter what the other. But maybe it helps out in the end.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it helps you be more motivated just to know what all's going on. It helps you to be more part of it rather than just like all I do is push down this.
well, and there
that's
will be
it.
times where I'll go get a part, and the person will be, hey, excuse me, what is that? Like they have no idea what they're putting on the truck. They have no clue what the hell they're doing. Like they're just like, put this box in. I'm like, oh, well, this is what like makes the whole inside of the car work. They're like, oh, cool. I'm like, wait, well, I mean, yeah. But I mean, like to them, it's just a little box they put in.
I could relate to that.
You know what I mean?
Our company, there's not really wide training in what we do. It's just kind of like whoever's the guy, that's your supervisor, he's going to train you, and just however he knows it. You could get the same job in 3 different yards just in the Metroplex, and we all do it differently. So I work for a home building company, or we sell home building materials, and I can enter tickets all day long, and there were a lot of stuff like I have no clue what that is, but I know it should be on this order, and I know how many it should be and how much it should cost, and then I would just start asking questions to the other guy like, what is that? What does that do? What is that for?
Well, for some people, it doesn't matter to them. They don't care what the part they put on the truck is. They just know they're supposed to put that part on there.
Yeah.
To me, it helps me to know like what that part does, just in case. Because there will be times where like you'll put a part on the truck, and then later on it might get covered up, and it might be harder for a person 4 lines down to put something in just because something wasn't routed correctly.
Well, it's
Yeah.
like if it's a safety part
that,
too.
It's that why, the why factor.
It give
of
you-
why are you doing this job?
It give you pride.
Doesn't matter down the line.
and majority of people that I would say work, like that do production, that work on the line, it is monotonous. So I can't blame them. They don't care. They're just doing it.
Yeah.
But some days you can come in mad or angry or just unmotivated.
Right.
You do a half-assed job. But if you know that part is something to do with making sure the airbags deploy, maybe it just motivates. Like I have to make sure I do this right.
I feel like most people that do, so like those jobs for us are called like critical fastener jobs.
Mm-hmm.
That most of the time, like it's harder for them to get vacation because they might be one of the only people on this shit that knows how to do that.
Yeah.
Like plugging in airbags, or one of my favorite jobs is the brake job. You handle the brakes for the whole truck. So like it's one of the only jobs where you get one warning and then you get let go. So if you mess it up, you
kill somebody.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
they can't
Or-
test all
or
of them.
recall.
They have specific vehicles they use for testing,
right.
and that's what the recalls
Right,
are for.
that's production, yeah. So like sometimes, like there was we had on the previous model, we had a brake issue that the thing that it's called the bass sensor. It's just a piece of plastic that holds the brakes together. Like that's what, like when the pedal pushes down, it's a little frail piece of plastic. So the guy, when he was putting it in there, he was trying to make sure the connection was made, but he put his whole hand over it, so he broke it almost every single time. So we had like a whole shift's worth of stuff that were broken, and I work on the far side, so I get half a first shift, half of my shift. So
I feel like you should be saying allegedly. I don't want to get you in trouble with some GM lawyer.
well, this is old, so it's already been handled. But like nobody knew it broke because it gets so covered up
Yeah.
that no one realized it, and it was like it.
And the next person's
so
not
much-
looking at the work before, like, oh, that doesn't look right. They're
Well,
just
so like certain things we have like double checks on, but critical fasteners is supposed to be handled, and it's supposed to be nailed down right there, so it never gets past it. So
Yeah.
there is no checking it afterwards because you handled it all
That
right there.
person
And
is
there's like
responsible
safety
for that.
things put in there, but like they're also told like if you have a question, say something. But it's really hard to train somebody on that job because as a group leader, you don't want someone messing that job up. So
And you're thinking, is that really an issue? Should I say something? Because if I say something, that's going to stop everybody.
will I get in trouble
Yeah.
or whatever? So like there
Mhm.
is issues with that as well. So, but like we kind of have open door policy since that happened, that if you have a question, speak up
Yeah.
because you're saving yourself. You're not going to get in trouble. You're saving yourself. So,
But yeah, you don't want to be that guy. Like,
Right.
"Man, I should know that. I should.
and there's a lot of times where it's not necessarily their fault. Like they just didn't know, So, yeah, it's
Well-
kind of wild.
I think all in all, businesses have to have empathy for their employees
To have good culture.
to build good culture, and I think that has to be your sole focus before your bottom line.
For sure.
I think that if you focus just on the bottom line, then you miss the point completely, and you never have that opportunity to build that culture and to set yourself up for success going forward. I mean, it basically comes down to you just have to give a fuck about people.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, there's nothing else to say.
Yeah, and that's basically what empathy is. I mean, we didn't plan on making it, okay, empathy's really everything. You have to give
No,
a
I think
shit.
we realized that. We didn't plan that this empathy, I think you brought it up, that we didn't plan that empathy was, hey, you know what, this is a big part of culture. I mean, but we all realized just through this show, through talking it out, that really that's what it all boils down to, is having empathy for the people that work for you.
And we talked earlier about, well, if you have this issue, does this guy deal with it? It doesn't matter. He's a manager.
Mm-hmm.
He should care and figure out who deals with it.
Yeah. One of the things I have on here is how to maintain culture, and it's empathy and compassion. I think that's what you have to have.
On that note,
Hit the music. I wanted to say that.
did I cut it? Oh.
No, yeah, that's what I
Sad
wanted to
cut
say.
you
I
off.
was going to say that.
Well, you're a business owner. Have empathy. Give a shit about your employees.
Please.
So follow us on Facebook, all of our social media platforms, and listen to us however you listen to your podcast. And we're on YouTube now.
Watch us.
I'm Ashton.
I'm Tony.
I'm Tyler.
High and Tight footballs are the world's only self-contained pressure-measuring, multi-sensory, instant audible feedback training footballs on the market. They have been used by NFL Hall of Fame players, NFL coaches, collegiate All-Americans, and players at all levels.
Take it from Cowboys running back Ezekiel Elliott. When you have the football in the perfect position with all the points covered and tight to your body, it sings to you. When it stops singing, you know you're doing something wrong.
High and Tight's mission is to help people improve their technique and abilities. Your commitment to fundamental training aligns with the very best in the world because you also know the true value of the ball. Ball security is job security can be heard by many, and now you can carry that message to your audience.
Get your High and Tight football by calling Tom at 989-400-7273 or going to their website at highandtight.com.
So let's start splitting that tip, flattening that wrist, closing that elbow, and keeping the ball high and tight.